G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and in this video we're going to be talking about villains, and we're going to draw a few later on. Why do we like villains? They are really iconic, and in most cases, comic books or movies or stories that we like the most tend to have really memorable villains. You can't have a good Star Wars without Darth Vader, you can't have a good Harry Potter without Lord Voldemort, you can't have a good Batman without the Joker. And so villains really are something that we kind of attach ourselves to almost as much as we attach ourselves to a hero. We need something to hate. We need something to want to fight against. And in a weird way, we kind of like them at the same time. I know when I first saw Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker was just so cool, and I'd do impressions of him all the time, and it's just like you kind of really get attached to this character, this thickness of a personality. So what we're going to be doing in looking at what features make up something of a villain when we want to draw or create one, we're going to look at already created villains first and kind of talk about that. So I've got a few little compilation images here that I want to look through. The first one, we have here some Disney villains, and they're pretty stock standard. You've got your Jafar, you've got your Captain Hook, you've got your Cruella de Vil and all that. But they're all smiling, they all have their sadistic faces, and they all have very, very clearly defined face parameters. Like there are very clear sort of features on the face, rigid cheekbones, some have prominent noses or a prop. Something like Jafar's hat is a very obvious one. It'd be difficult to even know what he looks like or recognize him without that. Hook's hook is another one. Cruella de Vil's hair, things like that. There are often one or two really staple key things on a villain, in particular a characterized sort of cartoon villain, that we use to kind of recognize them and instantly associate them with something. And we'll see more of that later. Next, we have a bunch of Marvel villains from the comics. We have Loki and the Green Goblin and Magneto at the back there, and Kingpin and all of that. There's lots of different ones, but you can see that this is a bit more of an extreme spectrum. So the Disney one, the cartoon one there, kind of relied on facial features. This one, while there are certain facial features that kind of stand out and make them look iconic, it's really about their presence and about their costume. There are shapes and colors that we instantly identify with a villain and with that attitude. So, for example, Loki's helmet and those two very large horns, it's very instant sort of recognition pattern that we get there. The Green Goblin has very specific sort of shapes and colors on the costume, and it's easy in almost every one of these cases to instantly identify who they are and how you know them, what you relate them to. So next I have a bunch of movie villains, and these are a little more on the dark side. So characters who generally have a lot more of a serious nature, a bit more of a glare, a bit more sinister, similar sort of personality attributes, which we'll get to in a moment. And props are another thing that I'll reiterate again. So for example, Phantom's mask is one of those very iconic props where you see someone with that half-face mask and you think that is the Phantom. Or the Penguin's hat. You have the glasses of Agent Smith and his very iconic sort of look and that profile and how everything kind of fits together. And again, obviously the Joker's kind of smile scars and that face paint. So there's some very interesting sort of villains. They all look immediately like villains too. Even this guy on the bottom left here from Iron Man. So next we have a compilation of happy villains. This is really common. You see this all the time. Villains who most of the time are very smiley. And there's something really off-putting about that, isn't there? There's just something about someone who's got a dark presence and mixed with their personality. Them happy is a bad thing. And that's why smiley, happy villains are often very cool, because when they're happy, you know things aren't going well for you or for the hero. And on top of that, I think there's also this interesting sort of paradox where when they're very, very mad and things are going bad for them, they up their intensity and they become even more entertaining to watch. So it's this really cool sort of double-sided sword where it's like, if they're happy, you're not happy because they're happy. But if they're angry, you're scared because they're angry. So they're very kind of influential in their emotions. And so what I wanted to do was list a bunch of common physical attributes and common personality attributes, and then after that we'll get to creating a few villains of our own. So common physical attributes: narrow eyes, thin gaunt face, rough rigid face. So narrow eyes is a common one, where they're often squinting or looking up because they're facing down. It's that kind of menacing feel, like they're thinking or reading darkly into something. Thin, gaunt face is an iconic sort of look. Often with older looking villains, it just kind of adds a sharp edge to them. Pronounced jaw is an interesting one, which we might touch on later, but it really is about having an identifying feature, and strong features kind of add a harshness to the image. A smile or a glare. So we've mentioned that. The glare shows that sort of sinister planning nature, and a smile shows the fact that something's going their way. And we'll get to smiles in a moment when we draw them, but there's a different kind of smile for villains. Their eyes are dark while their mouth is happy, Costume of some kind is another thing that is quite common. So like the Phantom Mask or like Loki's helmet, something very iconic that is easy to identify when you see them. And the list goes on. They usually have physical features like they're very tall or very short, they're often pale, or they have dark eyes or some kind of face paint. Strong cheekbones and a confident stance is quite common. Aged characters is also very common in villains, almost like someone who's been kind of withered by time and bitterness. And then finally, common personality attributes, and they're fairly consistent throughout villains, and they all have different sort of agendas and goals and where they want to get, but in general they're all very selfish or sadistic, patient, sometimes wealthy, power hungry. Often I kind of think of villains as like children who get a toy taken from them and then they start taking other people's toys. It's like that very immature, impulsive sense of impatience and want. It's that want, that really barely controlled sort of want. So we're going to now start mucking around, and I have a few ideas that I want to mess around with. And the first villain that I want to draw, and I'm just going to draw maybe 4 or 5, and I won't spend too long on them because I just want to demonstrate a few different kinds, and I haven't practiced this at all. I haven't pre-planned any of them, so I will be making them up as I go along, so they might not be perfect, but you will get the idea of the thought process that can go into designing a villain. So the first one I'm going to do, let's do a female, and we begin with our construction lines. So I'm going to draw a circle for the base of the skull and bring out the jaw, and a female has a bit more of a slender face, and I'm going to pick a couple of those features, of those common physical attributes or common personality attributes. And in the case of this female, we'll make her just thin and aged, sort of like a witch sort of character, and really menacing. So not too happy, not like one of those creepy smiley characters, someone really dark and menacing. So I've got my basic construction lines, and so what I'm going to start doing after I've got my head position is start outlining the key features that I've popped out. So I've picked 2 things. I want them menacing and I want them thin and aged. So I want to start outlining where the bone goes, because that's going to be really prominent. So the jaw is going to be one thing, and then the nose. And so I will maybe add a little bit of a hook to nose, but I don't want it to be too witch-like. Because they're aged, it's quite common for that sort of look in an aged character. Okay. And I'll add a bit of a... Oops, I don't want it too witch-like. I'm trying to avoid that. Okay, so we add our lines. This is all very sketchy. Add where our ears go, and then I'm going to do really dark, angry eyes. So I'll draw the eyebrows first, because I'm going to be drawing the eyes kind of under there. So eyebrows. And it's not feminine enough, so I want to bring out some more feminine features. So by adding more extremity to the angle of the eye, brow, and some lashes. And that's already looking a bit more feminine. Okay, so I want to soften the nose. I think I went a bit too extreme with the nose. So I'm going to erase that, make it a bit thinner. Okay, and I'll move the eye up a bit. And then I'll give a nice angry, sort of teeth grinding mouth. Okay, so there are lips here because it's a female, but I'm going to add some age lines to that. So I've got the rough look of my villain here, and I'm going to draw the base of the hairline and then add some hair on top of that. So we'll add some hair coming out here. Have the hair kind of pop out. And I'm going to maybe give her a bun of some kind. Okay, so this is quite a simple sort of villain. Now I'm going to draw my line work on top and be a bit more refined. So I'll zoom in, not that much, let's go 300%. I'm going to get my lines and begin with the eyebrows. And I want to start bringing out this aged look. I didn't want to draw all that in the sketch because it would be a bit too distracting from what the main features are. I'll start doing my line work. Now I've got other tutorials on drawing the things like the eyes and the eyebrows and mouths and noses, and I've got tutorials for all those things, so I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what I'm doing there, but I will let you know that I have them. Okay, so I want to make sure that there's a femininity. When you want to make something look feminine, make sure to kind of keep a slender look, kind of think cat-like, really. It's kind of got to be a bit more like that. Let's give her a bit more of a pointed nose. Okay, so our mouth is going to be scowling like this, and let's bring the mouth in like that. Whoops. Okay, so this one's quite simple. Something that I use quite often when I'm doing a really extreme mouth position like this is showing the gums up at the back corner of the mouth. Now, because she's aged, rather than drawing full lips, I'm going to draw kind of these lines like this that show it's kind of aged and withered. There you go, so that's good. I'm going to draw the brow and really pop out the cheekbones. And work that into the chin. I have those aged lines stick out. And then we're going to do the hair. Okay, so it's not overcomplicated, the simple villain I've drawn here. There's not too much sort of that's memorable about her. So that's the kind of problem that we're facing. So this is our basic sort of I'm an angry person villain. And we want something a little more than that now, don't we? So with that being our first one, so this is our first villain, which I'm pretty happy with that, but it's not villainous enough, is it? So let's go another step. Let's create another villain. So let's go someone who's got that smile, that menacing smile with really strong facial features, and let's pick one thing to be a feature on this person's face. So for example, we have, Phantom's mask or Joker's face paint and smile, or someone's hat. Like, there are all these different things that we have as a feature. So let's go with a scar, and let's go with something like that takes up, I know it's quite, what's the word, cliche, having a scar across your face there, but we'll see quite quickly how that can affect something. So I'll begin with my construction lines, and we'll draw a man this time. So this is the base of the head. We'll add our jaw and our direction line and our eye line. So it's facing up like this. And let's make the face, we're really strong featured, so let's have a really kind of obvious nose. Something a bit more bulbous like. Okay, so with the strong features, what else can we do? We'll position the ear and we'll bring out the jaw. Look at this. Really solid jaw. And cheekbones again. Now, how are we going to emphasize this smile? Well, I want it to be really over the top, just to demonstrate an extreme sort of example. So I have a really wide, smile. When they have a smile that's really big and that's on a 3/4 view like this, you often pop this cheek up on the far side because it's really prominent there. So the teeth on this up angle should be angled to complement the angle, if that makes any sense. I've just said angle a lot of times. And something I like to do with villains every now and then is just to add this little tooth there. Not too much of a fang, just a little bit of a sharp edge, just to show that it's not a friendly smile. Okay, so with our eyes, we'll draw the basics here. So he's staring like that, and let's make this guy bald. Okay, so we've got the face there, and we said we wanted to do a scar. So how are we going to do this? I want it to follow the face kind of like this. So let's have the scar come down here, follow the protrusion of the cheek, and let's make it a really gnarly scar. So let's have it cut into the mouth there, so it shows in through the top and bottom of the mouth. So it kind of like reveals the gums even more, which is a bit creepy. Almost like it's torn the face almost in half. Okay. So, and we'll keep him bald. And let's give this a go. So now drawing our line work, I'll lock that bottom layer. I'll get my black and I'll zoom in again to 300%. So how are we going to make this work? Well, again, let's focus on our prominent features first. So a big bulbous nose. We have our angry eyes, and because the scar is here, I'm going to cut the eyebrow in half like this, so that it works with the scar. So now, when I draw the scar, and you don't want a scar to look too clean. You don't want a really solid line. Okay. So I've got my scar going down the face, and I'm not going to draw a pupil. In fact, I will, but I'll draw it like one of those blind pupils. So it's a bit off. We have the other eyebrow and eye, which are fine, and we'll show it a normal, healthy eye, so that by comparison, we see that our weird eye is a little weird. And now let's get into the smile. So we have the top of the lip ripped open by our scar, which is traveling down the face. Again, really kind of rough line to show the scar, because scars are never very pretty, or very rarely. They're meant to look a bit mangly, look like they have lumps in places and pop out in weird ways, because if someone has a scar that bad, you can be sure that it didn't happen by accident. Oh, sorry, that it did happen by accident. What am I talking about? Okay. So, let's make sure that we get the teeth in. I'll angle the bottom lip up as well. And now we bring in our gums. Bottom lip. And then we draw the rest of the outline of the face. Ear, jawline, cheekbone, and there we are. Let's add a bit of a stronger brow line, and then we have the head itself. It's always good to get that freaky looking stretched out neck. There we go. So there's a little more of an iconic looking villain. Now that is a cliche sort of look, that scarred face, that scar down the middle of the face. So we are kind of using conventions that have been used before, but you can see that while this person looks menacing and looks like a villain, and we could use them in a villain in a more conservative sort of story, it's pretty straightforward. This one's a little more extreme. This could be some sort of villain that battles a superhero of some kind. Okay, so let's draw another one. Let's draw someone who is, let me think. Let's draw someone who is fat and wealthy and gets what they want. So, we will begin with our skull base, and our jawline will be a bit different because we're drawing a fat person. It's going to be quite a bit wider. And so we've done our smile and we've done our menacing face. Let's draw a bit of an indifferent, snooty one. So bit of a hooked nose. You find that noses are often quite extreme. They're either short or fat or thin or long or hooked or something like that when drawing a villain. Reason being is it's a very easy way to add a lot of character, and if a nose is too normal, they perhaps won't look villainous enough. So there are villains with normal noses, but in many cases they have a very extreme nose. So this character has an extreme nose, but their expression will be a little less intense, so they'll be somewhat more relaxed. We'll have perhaps a raised eyebrow expression. Looking over, down. Okay, so this is another thing I want to talk about, is lowered eyelids. It's quite common and useful to draw someone with an eyelid that's slightly lowered when they're looking off in a direction or at something, because a lowered eyelid shows disinterest or disdain. And so a lowered top eyelid, and we're drawing a wealthy man, a wealthy fat man. So we're going to add features of who caresness, if that makes sense. I just made up a word for you because I love you. Okay. So I have the chin here and the jowls flowing over into the collar of this wealthy man. And let's give them sort of a cummerbund thing. I don't know what they're called, but those things that tuck into the shirt, just to show a bit of his wealth. And how else can we show a wealth? Well, what better than a monocle? Right? Right. Monocle time. Okay, so let's give this guy a monocle. And perhaps some kind of mustache. Or is that too corny? Maybe a little beard there. No, not a mustache. We've already got a bald villain though, so let's give this guy a very receding hairline, slicked back in true wealthy man style. Alright, and we're ready for the line work, so let's lock that layout, go into 300%, grab our black and start doing the prominent features. So we have the raised eyebrow showing disdain with the disinterested lowered eyelid of this eye. Looking in that direction. I go into how to draw eyelids in the eye tutorial I did, so make sure to check out the tutorial section and check out eyes if you're interested in seeing some more specific tips there. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. So I've got a fairly prominent nose. Bit of a soul patch. His lowered eyebrow has to firmly hold down this monocle. There we go. So we're adding the shape of the full face now. Very, very large features. A man who always gets what he wants, that kind of thing. Except he probably doesn't get laid because he's a bit too big for that, huh? I've probably offended fat people everywhere. I'm sorry. I'm sorry fat people are sexually attractive to some people. Now I feel like a terrible person. I should stop talking. If you like the way I talk here, you should check out my video on how to draw fat people. I'm not kidding, I made one, and I think I was far more politically incorrect in that video than I have been in many of my other videos. I saw a bit of upkick on that tutorial I did on how to draw the female body, which is, funnily enough, my most viewed video on this channel. Go figure. And a lot of people complaining that I said the word vagina in a joking way. So I just found that sort of interesting because, you know, they are real. Vaginas do exist, believe it or not. And I wasn't degrading to them. I think that they should be looked after. And people are going to complain that I said it in this video as well. So why am I even... I'm feeding the... Okay, so here's another thing I'll do is I'll add... There we go. So that's something that very quickly added a lot of character. So if you look here, we've got this character here, and he's looking pretty close to what I want, but adding these lines here to the side of the mouth really just popped out something different. It really just gave it something else that it didn't have before, and that is a form of definition, and it just really kind of, it's almost like that Basset Hound look, you know, and it seems to work quite well on this character design. So zooming out, you can see that this is Lord something or other of the something or other manor. Okay, so we've got 3 villains that we've drawn here, and I'm pretty happy with how they have turned out. And perhaps we'll go with one more, and we'll go really, really crazy. Let's go really extreme here. So this will be kind of halfway between a creature and a character. So not so far as to do something like Venom off Spider-Man, but definitely something really freaky just for the fun of it. So let's do something front-facing. And we'll speed up the process by doing something symmetrical. So I'll just draw one half and then copy it over to the second half and then add any alterations I want. So what are we going to do to make this really extreme? Let's go with a really, really angled eye and a really tiny eyeball. And really accentuate the darkness of that eye. Okay. Another thing that you can do to really make someone look freaky is to have tiny pupils. Really tiny pupils. Okay. So again, really extreme here. So what I want to do is I'll have a really open mouth, but I'm going to have really tiny teeth, which is just going to be creepy. So I think the key to drawing something creepy is just really kind of overdo something, but not too much. You don't want it to be like Mickey Mouse-ish. You got to know what it is that freaks people out. Like, for example, why do people hate clowns? And find the things like whether it's the smile or certain makeup. And I suppose that's what they did with the Joker, really, isn't it? So we've got this first half of the face here, and that's looking pretty decent. So I'll lock that and I'll draw the line work and copy it over to the second half so you can see how I use that shortcut. So I feel like this is decent and extreme, but I kind of want to make it even more extreme. So we'll do it with a little bit more darkness around the eyes. So I've got my eyeball here. This tiny pupil. A few little lines here to show extremity. So I'm just going to full on colour in this black and add lots and lots of lines around here to show it really wrinkly and becoming lighter. Like this. So lots of lines. Bring the nose in. Really extreme nose. Okay, so let's bring out these teeth and make them look really gross. Okay. Really work that mouth. The mouth has the potential just to be so freaking creepy. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. It's pretty creepy. Let's add those lines around the mouth to make it look dry. And we've got the basics of this character done. So I won't go into the hairline, but what I will do is grab this, copy, paste, modify, transform, flip horizontal, and bring it over here. And you can see how instantly we have this freaky looking character. So I'll just rescale him slightly and add a little bit of asymmetry by, let's say, giving him a tongue. Oh, that's a little too... I won't give him a tongue. But we'll, I'll shorten the mouth a bit. Just fix up a couple of lines that I'm not too happy with. Give him a bottom lip. And some kind of hair. Actually, no, not happy with that. I don't know. I'm not sure what hair would look good on this, to be honest. I don't think anything could improve it. We'll go through what we've done. We've done 4 pictures here. We've got this elderly looking woman. I actually think I could add a lot more of these age lines. Make her look really withered. Here we go. Okay, now we've got this guy who's got a massive scar down his face, looks quite beastie and angry. We've got this pompous, rich villain, and then we've got this really freaky looking dude that I'm not entirely sure what it is. But you get the idea. It really is about finding things to accentuate and holding a certain air of their personality, of those things like the impatience or the malice or the greed or the gluttony, or that selfish nature that villains have, and really kind of working with that and finding a way to push that out there and make that at the forefront, and having something really identifiable that people see and associate with their character, with their nature. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video tutorial, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy my videos. You can download the reference files from this tutorial by clicking the link in the description. And remember to share any art, animation or game you make on Newgrounds.com. Until next time, see you later.